Oh, you're recording right now.
It's just, I can edit.
One more time?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. This is the place to go if you want to grow when you've hit a musical plateau. My name is Katie, and today we're going to talk about how to jam with people. So you've trained by yourself for a while, you're proficient enough, and now you're ready to play with others. So you'll not only hear from me, but you'll hear from other people that I've interviewed, former students, and also current leaders in the music community. Number one, if you know the pieces ahead of time that you are going to be playing with other people, prep and memorize as much as you can. And the reason why you want to prep and memorize as much as you can is so that you can listen and communicate with the other people that you're playing or singing with in an ensemble. So you want to make sure that you're not buried in that music, that you're not completely maybe panicked at new chords, maybe new time signatures, or possibly some tricky vocal runs or intervals. You want to make sure you prepped as much as you possibly can so that you're able to listen to the people in your group. You also, there's a saying that we have with the worship team that I play, is that practice is at home, rehearse is what we do together. And so that means you put in the work before you ever get face to face with other people. That really saves a lot of time. It shows that you respect the group and you respect the role that you're playing. And it also shows that you're responsible. Because if people are relying on you, they want to know, like, yep, I can count on you. And they may call you again for another gig, for another performance, to serve in a capacity one way or another. That's really, really important to remember. Editing Katie here. Forgot to mention that the thing that I actually tell my students is to see if they can sit in on a rehearsal. So instead of being plugged in or anything like that, sit in on the rehearsal and play along with the group. And you're learning how they communicate with each other. You're learning how they play with each other, and you can actually work on your rhythm and chord changes and things like that without being plugged in, without having the pressure on yourself to have to play a part in the ensemble. So see if you can ask and sit in on a rehearsal. This brings me to number two, is that you need to listen. You need to listen as much as you possibly can and communicate with the other members of your ensemble. And so if I've memorized as much as I possibly can, my head is up. I'm looking around. I'm making sure that I can make eye contact or just looking and reading the body language of the person that's leading the ensemble if I'm not leading myself, or I'm communicating, my head is up and I'm looking around, communicating with my body language or with my actual words, what I'm doing, where I'm going with this, how am I building, that type of thing, because I think it's really important that you're up and out of your music as much as you possibly can so that you can look at your conductor. You can look at the music leader, or you can look at the members of your ensemble if you are the leader yourself. So you gotta listen, you gotta look up. 3, I call this don't be a hero. What I mean by that is you need to blend. You need to make sure that you're adding to your ensemble rather than trying to stick out all of the time. Because if you're just trying to show off all of the time and show everything that you know and the fanciest strumming pattern that you have or the fanciest lick that you have on your electric guitar, or belting everything that you possibly can when really you could be blending.
It's definitely about the listening. It's definitely about understanding parts. I know that there's a lot of notes on this. Doesn't mean you have to play all of them. Same thing with drums. I remember the first time I played electric solo, like lead, all right? The first thing I right? And then the next song I did. I used all of my tricks in my bag in like the first 2 songs, and then the other 5 or 3 songs, I just played the same stuff. And so it's also about control. Like, you might be good at soloing, you might be good at this or that, but again, it's about the listening part. It's about playing when you need to play and not playing when you don't need to play, because that's the hardest part, learning.
Now, if you have a solo, yes, of course you would want to be able to give it the best shot that you've got. But just remember, you don't need to be a hero. You just need to add to the ensemble because it's about the team. It's not just about the individual. Now, along with blending, make sure that you can hear yourself. So if you have a monitor or in-ear monitors, make sure that you can hear that. Some places, especially where I play, we have in-ear monitors and we can adjust the volume of whatever instrument that we want in our ears. It's very, very nice. Love that technology. And then we also are playing to a metronome, a click. Every single Sunday that we do that, we all have a click so that we're all on together. So just make sure that you can hear yourself. Don't be afraid to tell the sound technician, hey, I'm going to need more of myself in my monitor. If they need to turn something down or turn something up, if you're sharing a monitor with someone, please just make sure it's not all just about you, that you are making sure that the person you're sharing the monitor with is getting what they need as well. Like if you use a wedge speaker, make sure you can hear yourself. That's really important. Number 4, lock yourself in with the rhythm anchor. And so if I'm playing in a band setting where there's a drummer, I'm making sure that I am locked in with the rhythm section. That kick drum, that 4 on the floor, and then also connecting to the bass player, I'm listening to those 2 people mainly. All right. Now, if it's just a guitar, I'm just making sure that I'm subdividing in my head and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. And so I'm constantly counting, tapping my foot, locking myself in with the person that is the rhythm anchor so that I am able to blend, as in the previous point, and make sure that I am adding to the ensemble rather than taking away, and just making sure that I'm not off rhythm. That's really, really important. Something that can really help with that is practicing with a metronome. I made a video on how to use a metronome, what it is, and some tips and tricks that can really help you just improve your rhythm. So I'm going to leave that in the cards above and the description box below, because practicing with a metronome is really going to make you stronger when you're playing with an ensemble. So as you were playing drums and keys, when you were first rehearsing, like maybe the first 6 months, what do you think that was the number one thing that really helped you just become comfortable with playing with other people?
Listening to like what other people are playing, especially like in keys where is my stuff clashing with what they're playing, or drums as am I doing something too complicated, and just also just being willing to make mistakes. And especially as you're learning and you're young, you're gonna make mistakes, especially. So just being okay with that, being comfortable with it, and allowing people to speak into what you're playing.
Don't be afraid to make some mistakes. Everybody is going to mess up and make a mistake. Don't beat yourself up too much. Just kick yourself once and then move on. I've heard that before, where you just, all right, oh man, I made that mistake. And then just try to move on as quickly as possible. And then you just tried your best and you try to do the best you can next time. Now, don't be worried about people not asking you back or calling you back. Sometimes if your reaction is very humble and very forthcoming and like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I messed that part up, I'll work on that part. If you see that kind of humility, and they see that you're willing to work, people have a tendency to want to work with you more because you're teachable, you're open. And sometimes it's easier to work with somebody, or you want to work with somebody that is more humble, that may take a little bit more time to get the part that you need, rather than someone that is arrogant and you can't teach them anything.
When I started playing with other people, one thing that really helped me was kind of finding things I had in common with those people, whether it be song interests or just kind of playing styles. When doing improv and stuff, really just having a good knowledge of the technical things is very helpful in getting comfortable with playing with other people. Really building a chemistry away from the instruments helps too, because then you know what the other person how they operate, and you can work around with that. I find it pretty helpful to know what you're doing beforehand when you play with other people, instead of just being, hey, let's jam to this song. Well, you got to know the song before you can jam to the song. So having a good repertoire of songs that you know, and now really all it comes down to is just practice, putting in the hours away from the stage and away from everything else, and just playing on your own and learning how to do all that stuff.
Hi.
Pastor D here. I've been a musician since as long as I can remember, since I was a little kid, and I think in high school I started playing in different ensembles and bands. And if I could probably give any advice to people who are just learning to play in a group setting is to find people that are a little better than you. Find people that are willing to impart good advice as you're playing. That's the time to get rid of your bad habits. But in reality, I believe we all study music and an instrument for the goal of playing with other people. I think there's no greater joy, there's no greater community of like-minded people that could come together and use their skills to create beautiful sounds. So I wish you luck in that.
So that leads me into this last point is humility. It's really hard to admit when you're wrong. It's hard to admit that you've made a mistake sometimes because you feel like your self-worth is tied to what you have just done. And that's something that I've really struggled with a lot. And it's not the I'm super awesome type of pride. It's the other end of the spectrum of pride, which is, oh man, I can't believe I messed that up. And then now no one's going to want to play with me anymore. And now I'm just going to be alone. And then now people think I'm a terrible musician because I've tied my worth to what I do. And that's a very, very dangerous thing to do. Because we're all imperfect people, we're all working toward a goal, and we all have something to learn. Every single one of us. And so sometimes we shut down when we mess up, and we get on the zero end of the spectrum, and we beat ourselves up all the time. And then everybody just sees us beat ourselves up all the time, and they think, oh man, I don't know if I can teach you, because you're just beating yourself up all the time. And the focus is still on yourself. Okay, so that's why that's still pride. The other end of the spectrum on pride, which is I call a 10 on the spectrum of pride, which is the hubris, which is the you can't teach me nothing, I'm the best in the world, what do you mean that I'm singing out of tune? And we've all been around those people, and we're all like, wow, I never want to work with you, ever. Anybody been there? I know, but it also could be insecurity manifesting itself. But what I'm saying is that on both sides of the spectrum, you're unteachable. Because either one, you're too busy beating yourself up, or two, you're too busy puffing yourself up. And so it's like right in the middle. All right? You respect everybody that is in the ensemble for the part they play. Everybody. You went from just playing in the ensemble
Sure.
to now you lead because you make your own music.
Yep.
You have your own albums. Is
Yep.
that right?
Sure.
And you play different shows, you know, in different parts of the country. You've lived everywhere.
Yep.
So what are you looking for if somebody is playing with you either in your band setting or on a worship team? What are you looking for in a musician?
Sure, yeah. When I look for other people to play with me, one of the biggest things I look for and hope for is not only talent, but humility. I always have this joke with musicians that we would rather have B-level musicians that are very humble and fun and easy to work with, rather than A-level musicians, meaning they're better than B-level, but who are arrogant and have a big head and who are difficult to work with. I mean, for me, part of the biggest experience is literally being able to make friendships with people. And so if it's very hard to have friendship with somebody, and because of ego or lack of humility, it makes the music almost dead. And so better to have, but you also need that balance of having really talented people. But I would rather sacrifice on talent and have people who are overly willing, humble, and really are looking for friendship than replace it with more talent for less friendship, if that makes sense.
You're sharing a gift. You're there to share your gift, and they're there to share their gifts too, as well. Even if it's a paying gig, you need each other in order to do this. And so be humble, listen well, and try to learn something and have a teachable spirit. I want to know what you think about playing with other people, whether it's jamming in an ukulele jam, singing in a choir, an ensemble, playing an instrument, whatnot. I think it's really important to hear your feedback because you are knowledgeable and experienced, and maybe your feedback in the comment section below, that could help somebody in the future. And me too. I learn from you guys all of the time. So please leave that in the comment section below. It's my favorite part of YouTube because I get to hear from you. All right. I love you. Bye.